Welcome to Music and Message. This is a weekly series that features musical performances and spoken reflection from a diversity of religious and spiritual perspectives. These gatherings seek to nourish the spirit and soul of our campus community. And as we begin, I acknowledge with respect the Onondaga Nation, firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee, the indigenous people on whose ancestral lands Syracuse University now stands. My name is Brian Conkle. I serve as Dean of Hendricks Chapel and Professor of Practice in the Department of Religion. This weekend, we celebrate the Syracuse University class of 2020, those who were called upon to commence into storms of disruption. And because of COVID-19, we're launched into unfamiliar futures. Today, in honor of the class of 2020 and to recognize the grace and grit they embodied and embraced, we will hear from three music majors from the Syracuse University class of 2020, Corinne Perotti, Noah Steinberg, and Gabrielle Sampt. Our Music and Message organizers invited these recent graduates to offer their perspectives on their experiences with the trust that we all might receive the hope that is gifted out of triumph and the assurance that is earned through struggle. So thank you, Corinne, Noah, and Gabrielle. Today we also give thanks for those who are participating musically, Pepe Calvar, Annie Laver, and of course our Hendricks Chapel Choir. And as always, we thank the staff of Hendricks Chapel and Brian Simons from Sensational Events, who are working to bring this program to thousands of students, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends online. To all those gathered with us here at Hendricks Chapel and online throughout the world, thank you for being with us. May you all be invited into the fullness of life.
Hello. So I am Corinne Perotti, and I am a music industry major of the class of 2020. And I wanted to start by telling the story of why I chose Syracuse. It probably helped that two of my band directors from school were Syracuse alumni and started getting me into Syracuse ensembles when I was in middle and high school. But the real reason was that my mom used to tell me that someday I would find my people. I had friends in high school, but not many that I was comfortable enough to completely be myself around. When I was a senior in high school, I shadowed Drea Cherry, who was a music industry major 2 years ahead of me. When I was with her, we were hanging out in the Krause Lounge, and these two guys came in and just started singing and dancing with each other. The best part? No one batted an eye. That's when I knew that I, Corinne Perotti, had found my people. After 4 years spent in that lounge, it was always a place of comfort for me, just because of that memory. My time at Syracuse will forever be the best of times and the worst of times. I grew so much from that shy freshman who came in and wouldn't speak up in classes to the confident senior who was working multiple positions and leading discussions. I also had a lot of rough nights in the practice rooms trying to get a run under my fingers or staying up late trying to finish a huge group project for those pesky Whitman classes. But I wouldn't trade any of those memories for the world. I remember when I found out that the university was shutting down for those 2 weeks of spring break. I was in the middle of my PRJ when we got the email, and I proceeded to finish knowing that I may not even be able to have my recital. I had just had an amazing interview at Steinway Recital Hall for a job, and we had just wrapped up auditions for the Prism concert that I was producing. I remember taking a last day of school picture with my friend Danielle because we both had a feeling that that would be our last day on campus. I was devastated because everything I had worked for in those 4 years here was pulled out from me, under me in a heartbeat. Now, after a year of working a retail job full-time and going to school full-time at Syracuse for my MBA, I am happy to say that I've come out better than I was those first couple weeks after we shut down. I finally have a job in my field, and I only have 1 more year of school left. I have new ways of keeping in touch with my friends who have moved to other cities and get to enjoy the times that I now get to see them in person. Through my time at Syracuse, I made amazing friends and had so many experiences that were once in a lifetime, like running a music festival before the big Paul McCartney concert, or getting to play at the Camping World Bowl. I do want to take the time to thank Michelle, Brian, DeCosimo, and both Dr. Cajolas for being there with me through it all. You all saw me at my best and my worst, and I couldn't have done it without you. From my time in the SUMB to my years working in 301, Krause, Setner, the Dome, and Syracuse were all home to me. I have 2 pieces of advice for current students. First, just enjoy it. Go out to Tully's after 9 for those half-price tenders. Go to Terrific Thursdays at Sweet Frog after marching band. Obviously, a lot of my social time was spent out getting food. Go to your friend's house for a movie night, or if you really have to get your homework done, go to the library with a friend after a meeting. Go down to your friend's place to have a study night that ends in a venting session. These are the moments I remember and cherish the most from my time in Syracuse, and what helped me through our time away from campus, because I can honestly say I have no regrets from my senior year. Lastly, don't focus on the negatives. I used to do that very terribly during my first 2 years here. You had that one lesson that you just knew wasn't going to go well, and you would spend your whole week worrying about it, and you could have had so many good times during that week. So just remember, you have a bad lesson, that's 1 hour of the 24 hours in that day. If you had a bad day, that is 1 day out of the week that has 7 days. You will have so many more good times than bad, so don't give those negative times that much thought. Remember the good. So I want to say thank you to Setner for giving me a place to be me and a place where I could finally find my people. Finally, thank you to Syracuse for being my home, and from the bottom of my heart, go Cuse.
Thank you, Corinne, for reminding us that it's good to take a moment and be thankful for what we have. Appreciate that. My name is Ann Laver, and I'm the university organist here at Syracuse, and it's my great pleasure to offer music as part of Music and Message today. All our music was chosen with you in mind, class of 2020, so here are these pieces. The first is called Soliloquy by David Conti, and we may recognize that term. It's often used in drama when a character takes the stage alone and gives a speech or remarks or some thoughts from the heart without thinking about an audience. And that's what we had to do a lot of in 2020. We had to do our work in isolation. So this piece is a nod to that. Those times that you all spent doing your projects for yourself, doing your recital preparation that you weren't going to be able to share with a live audience. So this piece reflects on that. And a nice little aside is that the composer wrote it for Chick Holtkamp, who was actually the son of the man who built this organ and all the organs on campus. So there's a nice Syracuse tie there.
Be fearless and bold. This was advice, a reminder recently offered to me by my mentor and friend, Professor Jim Abbott, when in a fluctuation in the trajectory of my career, I asked him, "What do I do next?" His response is emblematic of the attitude required to make change, to push forward, to climb out of difficult moments. While a student at SU, I basked in the gloriously confounding freedom that musical education and youthful experimentation offered. A sound recording technology major in the School of Music, I was energetic, overjoyed from the seemingly boundless creative opportunities available through the support of my mentors, peers, and institutional resources. In the bastion of musical and intellectual exploration, I felt free to explore. Through artistic challenge, through personal liberty, explorations of friendship, community, sexuality, gender, race, perspectives on privilege, I'd begun to travel the world. Comparatively, it feels utopic. I would have never expected our time together to end the way it did. I'll never forget March 11, 2020. We shared our last concert together at the School of Music Spring Choral Collage. An audience had already been barred from entry due to the coronavirus, and yet we sang on. With every singer and setner on stage, the show concluded with the spiritual "Lift Every Voice." None of us could have realized at the time, but its words would become a call to action. We sang. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. When I moved to the city 2 months later, I was greeted during my first walk by plywood-coated windows, a clash between police and protesters on Broadway, a burnt-out car center lane of 6th Avenue. George Floyd had been murdered 5 days earlier. After 2 months of lockdown, it was devastating to witness another struggle unfolding with so much visible pain. I didn't know how to react, but I found my study of music to be a source of strength and inspiration. Instinctual in the musical perspective is to persevere through failure, the transformation of mistakes into intent, the desire to achieve perfection by pressing on, and a mindfulness and honesty to work ahead, underpinning a vision of a better world. It is the will to draw out the true purpose of an experience, the desire to find unspeakable connection with others. Music is action, a perspective rooted in compassion, intended for a shared harmonious experience. Music allows you to see something that extends beyond yourself and find hope. And I was inspired by the music I saw around me and the determination of the people in the streets. I might not have known what to do next if not for the experiences I gained through our community at this university. There is an actionable quality ingrained within this culture, one that has flourished throughout the last few years. When injustice is witnessed, we act. I will always be proud to have stood with our brave colleagues who, without batting an eye, risked their reputations and academic standing under the threat of violence during the Not Again SU protests. Sitting on the floor of the Barnes Center those 2 weeks, I converged with some of the greatest teachers this institution has to offer. They were students who rapidly evolved our understandings of privilege, who taught us to connect through compassion in a common struggle, who led us through the most important lesson any of us can engage with. You must be the change you wish to see in the world. That lesson became real in those days, and I've carried it with me ever since. Let us march on till victory is won. I spent that summer in New York as a volunteer at the Black Lives Matter marches and protests, handing out water bottles, stopping traffic, engaging with police, providing medical assistance, building community. I witnessed constant arrests, with tension flowing through the air, followed by tear gas. Let us march on till victory is won. These events laid bare the work that needs to be done. That work is personal. The last year and a half has made clear that we all, albeit unequally so, suffer together through the struggles we face. It is a call to action for all of us to ask hard-hitting questions, to be fearless and bold, and weave a perspective fueled with compassion and ardency into the framework of our work and our interactions with others. This is often uncomfortable, but always necessary. How does our privilege affect our standing in the world? How can we use our jobs, money, and time to create greater access and visibility to a diversity of new voices? We can find faith in the darkness of this era. We can find hope in the potential of a brighter future. We can cultivate an ardent will to work until that becomes our reality. As students, as citizens, as a community, if we don't take collective action, where will that leave us? Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till freedom is won. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah. I remember that concert, March 11th, 2020. It was all of us on the stage in Setner singing with the American Spiritual Ensemble and to an empty room. All right, so this next piece should hopefully bring a smile to your face. It is Elgar's famous Pomp and Circumstance March number 1. This is a piece that is closely associated with graduation ceremonies here in the United States. And the reason for that is because Elgar was invited to Yale University in 1905 to receive an honorary doctorate, and the music director thought it would be nice to play some of his music. So they played this march as the graduates were walking out, and it must have stuck because that's what we do all the time now. You'll hear this familiar tune. I usually get to play just the middle trio of this at graduation ceremonies, but today I thought I would play the whole thing for you so you get to see how it's put together.
When I toured Syracuse University in my senior year of high school, I felt something unique, something different than I had previously felt on any other college tour I had been on. Stepping into the Setner School of Music, I felt seen, welcomed, and cared about, even though I was only a nameless prospective student. At my audition day, I fell in love with the beauty of Krause, especially the beauty of the very people who filled its halls. As a quiet, unconfident high school student, I was intimidated by the size of the university and its endless school spirit, afraid I wouldn't fit in. When I arrived on campus for my first day of band camp in 2016, my fears were quickly quelled. I had found my people. They cared about who I was, what I liked to do, the thoughts that went through my head. Never before had I experienced anything like this. My college days slipped through my fingers because I had the privilege of studying on a beautiful campus full of countless adventures and challenges, surrounded by talented, passionate individuals who did nothing but endlessly support me and push me to be my best. Who could ask for more? Little did I know that the whirlwind of my first 7.5 semesters would not come close to the whirlwind of a journey of my last half semester. It is easy for me to wipe away the memories of the final months of my senior year, but I'm grateful for the opportunity this weekend to be able to reflect on my journey and the impact it has made on my life. At the beginning of 2020, I was truly, pardon the cliche, living my best life. I was finally student teaching, something my entire undergraduate experience had led up to, and awarded the amazing opportunity to form relationships with eager and not so eager band students and inspiring educators. My friends and I knew the end was near, even before the world turned upside down, so we took every second to adventure and cross final elements off our Syracuse bucket lists. It was a time full of happiness, laughter, and fulfillment. I was on my quest to tie up loose ends. No one was prepared for the fateful Friday the 13th that stands out in all of our minds. I hope the last words I had said to my host teacher that day as I left the school building, "Maybe I will see you in 2 weeks," with a huge emphasis on the question mark, were not the last ones I would speak to her in person. I hope that the rushed goodbyes said to my friends and colleagues were not final, that I would see them again soon when classes resumed. I left my Syracuse apartment to travel back home, hoping that I would return to sleep in my apartment bed as a college student, a student teacher. Needless to say, most of my hopes didn't come true. Though eternally grateful to be home and safe, I miss the Syracuse community, and dare I say, contagious spirit that must taint the Syracuse water. I felt more emotions than I ever knew existed, but perhaps more than anything else, I felt lost. My plans had derailed, and the future was uncertain, and this anxious, schedule-oriented perfectionist did not like that. But even amongst all of the chaos, uncertainty, and fear, something else emerged from the muddy waters, something that I had long taken for granted as an attribute of the Syracuse University community, the sincere and deep-rooted care of its members for each other. My heart warmed every time we received communication from Setner, sending us messages of hope, encouragement, and love, pushing us to go on and reminding us that they were always there, no matter how distant they felt. I clung to the only normalcy of my new schedule, my weekly Zoom classes, the most important learning that went on in those sessions, and I say this not to discredit the academic content, was hearing how my colleagues were, how they were feeling, if they and their loved ones were safe, what they were doing to cope, what small ounces of good news they had to share, what the names of their adorable pets were that crossed the Zoom screen. If nothing else, I learned that my feelings were human, mutual, and normal, that I wasn't unjust for feeling mad at the world or for struggling to hand in assignments on time, even with my sudden emergence of what felt like many more hours in that day. Coming back to Syracuse this weekend, I feel nothing but gratitude. I am grateful for the challenges this last year and a half have presented me with, because I have come out of it as a different, stronger person. I've learned how to persevere through the most difficult and unexpected circumstances, to always put my mental health first and ask for help when needed, and how to always be there for my students no matter how difficult life gets, just like my professors always are for me. The pandemic, ironically enough, did bring me many blessings, including the opportunity to spend more time with my family that I would not have otherwise had. The chance to have various personal phone calls with my professors, who took plenty of time out of their own busy and stressful days to speak with me, to reconnect and help guide me through my own life choices. And perhaps, most of all, the opportunity to attend this incredible weekend designed for us 2020 graduates to make us feel as special and cared for as possible. Being here this weekend has been bittersweet because with the close of our graduation festivities, something I've looked forward to for as long as I can remember, it feels as if one of my final Syracuse doors has been closed. But I know I will always have the kindness and genuine care of the members of the Syracuse community waiting to welcome me back whenever I'm ready. No different than how welcome I was made to feel all those years ago when I walked onto the campus for the first time as a prospective student. The opportunity to come full circle and reunite with friends, professors, and other community members has warmed my heart. It reminds me that the lessons I learned, the educators and musicians that inspired me to be where I am today, and the pride I feel to be a member of this community will always be parts of me and will guide me throughout my life and career ahead. I could not be more grateful to be forever Orange and be a part of this special community. I don't know where my Syracuse journey will take me next, but I cannot wait to find out. Thank you.
Where
his blessing. To those called upon to commence into storms of disruption, to those launched into unfamiliar futures, to those with dreams undeservedly disorientated, may you be patient towards all that is unsolved in your heart. May you be at peace with all that is unsettled in your spirit. To love the questions, to live the questions, to learn from the questions. And as you journey ahead, may you be travelers and not tourists. To embrace the hope that is gifted out of triumph. To embody the blessed reassurance that is earned through struggles, and to pay attention to what your life now wishes to do with you. On this day of new beginnings and far beyond, by God's grace, may it all be so. Amen.
I'd like to invite all alumni forward, please. And I'd like to invite members of the class of 2020 who are now conducting graduate students to the podium, please.